Dopamine will never fill us up. It's programmed that way so that we always wanted more as hunter-gatherers. Boredom is like the key recipe of creating healthy dopamine in the modern world. And you could have extreme boredom like meditation.
TJ is one of the UK's most influential neuroscientists, with almost 1 million followers on the old social media.
People with ADHD actually have a stronger desire for dopamine. So evolutionarily, arguably, the world has actually been built off of the back of the ADHD brain. So our nervous system is much more vulnerable to both positive and negative information when you wake. It's like more malleable and flexible. So in those like early sort of 10, 20, 30 minutes, good or bad information is going to really sway you in either direction. If you're just like constantly saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but then your life is remaining the same, it's your dopamine that you need to sort out.
I feel like there's so many things that I'm doing wrong. TJ, we start every episode of Modern Rituals podcast by Exhale Coffee with a quick fire round. Are you ready?
Hit me.
Okay. First thing you do when you wake up.
Brush my teeth.
What's worse for us, too much sugar or too much phone time?
Phone time.
Okay. Breath work or gratitude practice if we had 10 minutes in the morning to spend on one or the other?
Breath work.
Okay. A quick tip to help us overcome our phone addictions.
Never ever let it cross your bedroom door.
Okay, love it. Okay, like last one, selfish one. I'm going for a 1 hour run. Am I better spending it with headphones in, learning from a podcast, or no headphones in, listening to the sounds of nature?
Definitely no headphones in for my specific take on this one. Whilst I think it's cool to learn, I think we're doing enough of it.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, cool. So today's guest is the awesome TJ Power. So TJ is one of the UK's most influential neuroscientists, with almost 1 million followers on the old social media. He's author of the best-selling book, The Dose Effect, which is about how to improve your brain and body by optimizing levels of the 4 dose chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, which are nicknamed the happy chemicals. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, cool. So, right, I'd love listeners to come away from the podcast learning a bit more about all of these different chemicals, but most importantly, with a nice, actionable list of habits that they can start doing tomorrow to help optimize their levels of each. Okay, so, but first, generally, before diving into them all one by one, what difference has a focus on optimizing your own levels of these dose chemicals made on your own life?
Oh man, a big difference. Dose has been my personal answer to a brain that spent 20 years just so addicted to stimulation, whether that's like partying or sugar or phones or porn or anything, just anything that could stimulate my brain. I loved it my whole life growing up, and that had its pros and cons, like that experience. Eventually though, I just find like I would spend so much of my life waiting for the high of stimulation and then pretty annoyed when I'm not in it and just feeling like kind of crappy and low and unsuccessful and not that driven. And I really want a cool life. Like I think we get this like opportunity to be here as a human in like the physical world, and it's like, oh cool, I get to be here, and I really want to have a great experience of it. And I found that being addicted to stimulation was definitely reducing the capacity to enjoy it, and understanding my brain chemistry has given me like a secret key that enables me to experience it to the max.
Okay, so interesting. So reducing your addiction to these chemicals. So is it a case that we're addicted to them, and that we should reduce our necessity of them, or is it that we're swapping them for better versions of them? And this is just a question that I've made up on the fly. So for example, dopamine, like everyone talks about like phones and like we're on social media for this quick dopamine hit of social media. But, you know, should we be trying to cut that out entirely or actually swapping it for better quality dopamine hits?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not that we're kind of addicted to all the chemicals. It's all of the chemicals serve a very important evolutionary purpose for us as humans. Dopamine just like makes you a motivated human. Oxytocin bonds you. Serotonin stabilizes your mood. Endorphins help you feel resilient to stress. And they all have very important functions for us to survive as a species. It's just in the modern world, we figured out specifically how to hack accessing dopamine itself. And we kind of short circuited it and made it very easy to access dopamine. And that is the social media, the alcohol, the porn, the sugar, the vaping, and so on. And dopamine is the chemical that we've like hunted and searched for hundreds of thousands of years, but we could only access it from literally hunting for food or foraging for berries or finding some honey or a new place to live, fresh water, building shelter, making fires. We had to do a huge amount of effort to access dopamine. And then suddenly over the last few hundred years, we began short-circuiting it with the booze and the cigarettes. And then we rapidly changed things as the screens got invented. And now that we're doing that, we're getting very addicted to the short-circuited version, effectively.
Okay, so are you saying that so being addicted to dopamine did have an evolutionary advantage or at some point, or does have an evolutionary advantage?
Yeah, like if you took, just given we're in this conversation, you and I,
Yeah,
you're in your 30s, your 20s.
40s.
You're in your 40s,
Well,
right?
thank you though. Yeah, yeah.
You're looking good, bro. You're in your 40s. Your function in a tribe would have been,
Yeah.
and I always refer to the tribes just because our brain spent 99.9% of human history as tribes, and then we just rapidly changed things over the last 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And the last 30 have been the most significant. And your function would have been providing food for that group, making sure shelter is available, making sure the fire is hot so that we can survive. And you would have been, quote unquote, addicted to doing that. Like that would have been your main priority every single day. How do I make sure this family has food and these shelters are built and we're surviving out here? So yes, it's very important to have massive desire for dopamine. Interestingly, people with ADHD actually have a stronger desire for dopamine. So evolutionarily, arguably, the world has actually been built off of the back of the ADHD brains. The ADHD brain would have been very useful in the hunter-gatherer world. Now ADHD is hard because you have this natural, intense desire for dopamine, but instead of only being able to access it from those healthy activities of providing for your family, now it's suddenly like, oh, but I could get it out of reels and I can get it out of all these different things.
Yeah.
But then suddenly it's like, how do I manage this? But yeah, an intense desire for dopamine is a natural evolutionary state.
Okay, amazing. So, and what is it about like modern society that screwed up our own management of dopamine, our own dopamine levels?
It's just, I can explain it with a little bit of how the brain actually works. You have this area of your brain called the ventral tegmental area, and you could rename that to dopamine factory because it's much easier. So dopamine factory. In your dopamine factory, you're manufacturing little dopamine vesicles, basically tiny little bubbles of dopamine. You're literally building them all the time. You then have something next to your dopamine factory called your nucleus accumbens, which is your reward center. Okay. If you took something like cleaning your house, okay, so we all have to do that task. When you clean your house, you don't start cleaning your house and think, oh my God, I feel freaking amazing. Now I'm cleaning my house. But after 10 minutes, you start thinking, it's kind of nice though, cleaning my house actually and getting this task done. And then by the end of cleaning your house, you feel quite satisfied with cleaning your house. In that scenario, because you're having to engage effort, your dopamine factory starts manufacturing these bubbles to make you motivated. And then it occasionally ships the bubbles to the reward center to make you feel good about the fact you're doing something that's hard so that you keep doing it. And you can imagine evolutionarily feeling good about doing hard things was like super important to our survival. Yeah. So it's a nice simple cycle. Manufacture the dopamine, send some to the reward center, feel good about it, feel motivated. In the modern world, as you say, what's the modern world done to it? When you say open YouTube and then naturally get pulled towards YouTube Shorts, which is exactly where YouTube is now taking us. As soon as you're on YouTube Shorts, your brain goes, wow, this is stimulating and novel and exciting, and starts mass shipping bubbles from the factory to the reward center because it's like, wow, this is so rewarding. For whatever reason, it's so rewarding because of so much new information coming towards it. Because there's no effort involved, your brain gives up on manufacturing any new bubbles. So suddenly, after let's say 10 minutes, factory is unbelievably depleted. Reward center is firing like crazy. And then you look back at the factory, it's like, we got no dopamine left. And that no dopamine left state, for just normal human language, is apathetic, can't concentrate, feel like shit, feel moody, can't be bothered to do anything challenging. That state of just like, life's so annoying, I feel pissed off. That state is low dopamine in the factory.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that's, yeah, okay, cool. So how do we know when we're living a life that's out of balance, and like what are the symptoms of having issues that dopamine levels that are a bit out of control, and we need to start prioritizing it? Like,
One of
is it?
the big first things we identify at our lab is
Yeah.
less joy from the basic parts of life, like finding less joy in going for a walk, for example, without your phone. If you were to find that a very boring, dull experience, and that's like, oh, your dopamine must be pretty shot, your dopamine receptors are fried. Or
Okay.
if eating a meal without looking at a screen is boring to you, that would mean your dopamine receptors are shot. And I have struggled like that with that, like
Yeah, yeah.
crazy. Like I try and eat my breakfast now, like looking out the window, and it's like, fuck, because it's so boring.
Or going for a run with no headphones and no
Going
podcast
for
on.
a run with no headphones.
Even
Like,
though you're in the middle of nature running along the most beautiful coastline.
I
And if
know,
you can do it without headphones in, like I currently am in that situation, then
definitely.
you've got a problem, right?
Like if life is feeling a bit dull, then you're overstimulated effectively. Your dopamine is overactive. And other aspects of it are you feel like your attention span is just falling apart. That would be a key aspect of dopamine. And then you just have goals in life that you keep talking about doing, but don't do. That would be a key
Right.
sign up, because dopamine is what gives us the drive to do the to make the hard choices. And if you're just like constantly saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but then your life is remaining the same, it's your dopamine that you need to sort out.
Does it impact long-term goals though? Like, does it benefit long-term life goals? Because you're not going to get much instant dopamine hits, are you? Because it's not. I don't know if would your neurotransmitters know whether you're getting any closer to your long-term goals?
Yeah, it would, because your neurotransmitters are based on your thoughts. So
Okay.
I'm writing my second book, for example, at the moment,
Yeah.
and it's a long way away, this journey. I've got to write, like, I've just
Yeah.
written a
Yeah.
book and now I've got to bang out another 100,000 words. So it's like a very long-term goal. But my brain knows the reality that I'm going towards this long-term goal. So every small step in the right direction is helping it. Even if I'm on a walk in the quiet and I have a good idea for the book, that's going to generate some dopamine, even though the actual goal is miles away. So it is massively impacting long-term goals. And the greatest feeling of dopamine that truly satisfies us is when the long-term goals are moved towards. It's like the short-term little hits, they don't really do much.
Okay. Cool. And then we talked about earlier about these kind of, because you're getting short-term hits from your phone. Like I feel like maybe, do you think that's a symptom of people being quite dissatisfied with their jobs and in careers that they don't like, and in office jobs that they don't enjoy? And I feel like I was an accountant for 15 years, really unfulfilled, didn't enjoy it. I used to call it hell with fluorescent lights. I used to say that every day spent at my desk, a little piece of me died. And I feel like is the fact that we have to pick out our phone so much is because of, we just all slightly unfulfilled in life in general, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to raise. I think we're not living in a human experience that we were designed to live in. Like if we could all be kind of tearing through the forest, jumping in waterfalls, building shelters, like when you see people on Instagram, like in these dream lives in Costa Rica or whatever it may be, that's what a human being is built to do. And we're not built to sit like in fluorescent lighting and stare at a screen all day. And it's creating this like need for like, how can I create change? But the reason I feel so motivated to care about things like the phone addiction is it will never change if you remain constantly chasing the short-term dopamine in the phone, because you'll just stay stuck in that exact life experience. Whereas if there is a bigger life experience you desire, a new type of work, a new way to generate income, you're going to have to get really freaking motivated. And the only way to get really freaking motivated is to get your dopamine back into balance. And then maybe change could come.
Got it. Okay, makes total sense. So, right, let's move on to like what kind of habits, what things should we start doing to help get our dopamine back in balance? Give us some tips.
Yeah, so step one is a hard one, and I want to hear your objections to the idea if you have them, is
Yeah.
the phone can't go into the bedroom. They just can't go in there, and there's a million reasons as to why we think we need it, for emergency calls and alarms and things to listen to while we go to sleep. But the problem is wherever our brain gets its first source of dopamine from when it wakes, it instinctively is programmed to think, okay, that's my primary source throughout the day. Like, for example, if you have ever drunk alcohol in the morning on some big bender, you'll obviously know how that sort of day goes. It's carnage if you have alcohol in
Yeah,
the morning because your brain's like, oh, that's going to be my dopamine today. Like, F everything else. I'm going to just
yeah,
target
yeah.
the booze. And we underestimate that the phones are doing the exact same thing. We go into them as soon as we wake just to, like, innocently go on WhatsApp or just check our email or Slack or whatever it might be. But then our brain is like, cool, this is my dopamine. And that is the opposite of what you want. You want your brain to crave effort, not easy pleasure.
Mm.
And with that, for example, how do you feel about not having your phone in your bedroom? Do you think it's possible or not?
I mean, so yeah, I stopped having my phone in my bedroom, but it's
Okay.
mainly because of like, I seem to remember reading something years ago about the electrical
Yeah,
magnetic
that's a good another
fields
thing
or
to motivate
something.
you.
That was what initially motivated me, but then I was like, okay, well, what if I start? So the last few months, my sleep's been terrible. So I've been like, right, maybe if I start doing some breath work before bed to help, or specific. So I've got a breath work app called Othership, which is awesome.
Nice.
And I've started bringing the phone into my bedroom for the first time in years. And I'm like, right,
Yeah, of course.
is it excusable to have the phone with me so I can do this breath work before going to bed? And then I just don't want to get up out of bed and take it back downstairs. So I just kind of leave it by my bed, but on aeroplane mode, like, is
Yeah,
that
that's
allowable? But the temptation's still there for the morning, isn't it? So
yeah, the problem is with having it in the room regardless, is even if it's on airplane mode, there's this like slight pull towards it, even if you don't use it. You kind of just know
mm,
it's kind of there and you could go on it. So you wake
yeah,
in the night and maybe you can't sleep. So then you're like, oh, should I put something on? Should I listen to a podcast? Like there's
yeah,
this
yeah.
like slight opportunity for it.
Yeah,
Um,
I can totally see that because I have that problem in the mornings so normally my phone's downstairs for years and I leave it downstairs in the kitchen. So I get up in the morning, first thing I do is head downstairs and like I'll have a pint of water, but the phone's there on charge. And I
the
know that the phone is like, I open my phone and every review that we get, for example, gets emailed to me. And, I know, and, we get really good reviews, mostly
well,
five
then that's
stars.
positive. That's good.
But I'd say like,
But it's
one
still
in
addictive, even if it's
30.
positive.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's true. But like one in 30 maybe is a 1-star review. So like maybe twice a week I'll come downstairs and I'll have a 1-star review and it will literally just spin me out and just like ruin
Yeah.
my whole day. But I think because the phone's there in the kitchen, I see it and the temptation is irresistible. And
Yeah, of
even on
course.
days
Yeah.
where I'm like, right, I'm not going to pick up my phone for the first hour, it's still there and I can't resist it. So maybe the same rule applies where keep it out of the bedroom, but also keep it out of where you're going to be in the morning as
Keep it
well.
just out of eyesight, basically. You
Yeah.
can't see it. Like behind me on this shelf, on the right hand side, there's some books there.
Mm.
My phone charge is kind of behind those books, like on the right side. So like I will never see it in the morning. And my eyes,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I am just so addicted to this stuff. Like as you
Yeah.
said, just it pulls you in, and then you're like, oh, what's going to be in there? And then you're in. And the challenge is our nervous system is much more vulnerable to both positive and negative information when you wake. It's like more malleable and flexible.
Mm.
So in those like early sort of 10, 20, 30 minutes, good or bad information is going to really sway you in either direction. So yeah, if you get a great review, I feel extra good because of the malleability of my nervous system. But you're rolling the dice too much. If you get negative news, as you said, it screws your whole day. Whereas if you were to
Mm.
stabilize the ship and then check the phone at 9 o'clock, or whatever it might be, your capacity to
Mm.
tolerate the annoyance of the review, for that example, is actually much greater. So it is
Yeah, yeah.
important to kind of get it steady
I feel
first.
like I'm numb to the good now. I think because we get lots of good reviews, and I'm not just saying that to boast, but we do generally get lots of good reviews, but I just kind of ignore them. And it's almost like my brain is hunting the negative one.
But we are
And that,
programmed to hunt for the negative. Like we have a
are we?
negative bias. Yeah, because life was so dangerous for so long. So your brain
Mm.
had to every sound you heard, you had to assess, like, is that a small animal, a large animal that can eat my family? Like everything would be primed towards the negative because it was a survival adaptation. So it is useful to have the negative. And that's why, for example, the news is pure negative because it gets much more attention. Because if the news was
That's
positive,
true. Yeah.
everyone would stop consuming it because they'd think, oh, I'm numb to the positive. But the reason the
Mm.
news is so addictive, because they fire at us the whole time the world's ending. And then you think, oh, yeah, I'll keep reading. And that's the same with like comments on Instagram. You get 100 perfect comments, one bad comment is the only one you
Oh,
read. It's savage.
totally. Yeah,
So it is a
totally.
normal evolutionary state, but it's when
Okay.
you just got to be quite conscious of. I mean, I think it'd be very good for your mental health to not have any of those reviews come to your email anymore.
I
I
know.
think that would
Literally,
be really
yeah.
good.
I literally keep saying that. I'm like, right, who in the team can I get these sent to? But I
Yeah.
don't even wish it on anybody.
Yeah,
That
and you
feels
could just
particularly
once a
cruel.
week be like told, "Oh, we had a couple bad ones. This is what we're doing about it." And it could just
Yeah,
be like
yeah,
a quick conversation rather than just like, and they feel pissed off and so on.
yeah, yeah.
In
Okay.
this
So
conversation, we're gonna fix your sleep as well, just so you know.
thank you. So go on then. What are the tips around the dopamine side of things? So what
Yeah,
should
so
we be
let's
doing?
imagine, so like kind of placement of the phone is pretty crucial.
Yeah.
The next kind of key step we take people into, because we take people in these research studies through these core steps, and then we try and measure how big of a change we can create in their life. And the next step is how you treat your home environment is really crucial to your dopamine. So, as many of us would experience, any kind of act of cleaning your kitchen, emptying dishwashers, changing your bedding, it does create a sense of satisfaction. And typically, as your dopamine goes lower and lower, your environment around you gets messier and messier, and then vice versa. So
Right.
the next step is we just get people really disciplined with how they treat their home environment. And if it's currently a really big mess, that can actually be really annoying to even think about trying to clean it, which many of the people that come to our studies are in that state. So we just do it step by step. We always start with people's bedside table in their bedroom. So like that
Mhm.
normally fills up with crap and glasses and all kinds of weird
Yeah.
shit. And we just go step by step. But the fundamental idea is knowing in your mind that all the annoying shit you have to do around your house is healing the chemical that's getting destroyed by the screens. And it really
Mm.
helps you to know that, because I hate taking the bins out, for example. Like that's such an annoying task. You kind of like pile the bin up and it gets more and more full and then eventually take it out. But I know in my head, oh, that's generating dopamine, which is healing the chemical I've screwed up by being on my phone today. So step 2 is effectively immense discipline within your home.
It's so hard to though connect with that chemical because you don't often feel it. Is it just like a deeper knowledge that you are benefiting that chemical? So I know
No,
that when I take the
I
bins
reckon
out,
you do
don't
feel
know.
it.
Yeah,
When you've spent all day washing your bed sheets, buttoning up the duvet, doing
yeah,
everything,
yeah.
have you ever got into your freshly washed bed and regretted the fact you did it?
No, never.
No.
No.
You're like, "Oh, I washed my sheets today. That's so nice."
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
That
yeah.
is the data you're looking for. And yeah, to clarify, dopamine often doesn't feel good during the activity. It's after the
Okay.
activity. So it's like,
Mm.
I don't like walking out into my kitchen and seeing that as a tip. I hate that experience. Then I'm like, fuck, I've got to clean it, and you're like washing all the pans. None of it is enjoyable. But then walking out and, oh, cool, my kitchen's clean. That's the feeling you're chasing. Whereas we've gone the opposite way around now. And we're chasing feeling good immediately and shit after. But you want to feel shit during and good after. That's what the dopamine is looking for.
Okay, it wasn't there something about the run up to it as well, dopamine, the expectation of the kind of the completion of the task as well, which you've talked about before.
Yeah. So this is where it gets quite interesting, because dopamine levels themselves are actually their highest just before the task is finished. So it's like just before you're about to finish cleaning the kitchen, you're like, oh, I'm pretty happy that I've managed to just get this task done. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reason that is for our ancestors, say you were hunting for an animal, dopamine creates your motivation, your focus. If I was actually having to chase down a deer, for example, I need maximum dopamine in the crucial moment before I catch the deer, just before. I don't need the maximum dopamine once I have the deer, because it's like, why would I need more motivation at that point? So your dopamine kind of peaks just before the task has been achieved. And then with bigger goals, it actually will dip a bit because it will have gone so high to get you there. And that's why sometimes you get kind of like a job promotion and then you actually feel kind of shit after you've processed the fact you've got it. And it's like, why would I feel bad right now? Like, you get this slight dip.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
I remember when I was at school, I'd finish like my set of exams in the summer and I'd think, oh, I'm going to feel amazing. And I'd kind of crash. But it's because your
Yeah.
brain feels the best just as you get close to the finish line, which just means
Okay.
we're programmed to always then have a new objective. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we always have
Yeah,
got to be
yeah.
hustling for the next layer.
Okay, cool. So in the mornings, no phone in the bedroom. Get up, clean your make your bed sheets if you need to.
Always make your bed.
Always
That's
make
step
your
one.
bed.
And always choose the effortful path. All the stuff you don't want to do, like brushing your teeth, splash cold water on your face,
Yeah.
don't scroll on the toilet, like read when you go to the toilet if you need something to entertain you.
Mm.
Choose to go for the 10-minute walk outside. Like every single time you choose the more effortful path, not the easy path, that's how you generate dopamine. And you can obviously go
Okay.
into the research and go really specific on it, like cold water immersion is good for dopamine and different activities are good for dopamine. But almost to save yourself the time of understanding each specific activity. It's basically, am I choosing the more effortful thing or the easy thing? And every time you choose the effortful thing, you generate the chemical that then gives you more satisfaction, more excitement, more love for your life.
I love it because this is all stuff that anyone can do, whatever your job is, wherever you work, whichever city you live in. You know, we all can do these things in the morning,
Yeah, for
whatever we're
sure.
doing in life. Because you know, so many people complain and say, "Well, I can't do all of this stuff. I haven't got time in the day, or I've got to leave the house at 8 a.m. to go to work, and this and that." But actually, everything you've said is so far, anyway, is stuff that everybody can do at any time.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And
yeah.
even you can have big moments where you do that. Like, yeah, I'm going to go do a plunge pool or something like that. That'd be like some extreme activity. But if you just think of every micro decision you have, what would be the harder choice out of the two? Like, let's say, for example, you're going to relax in the evening with your partner, or you're sitting at home on your own on your sofa. The easiest way to entertain yourself would be Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok. That'd be the easiest. The hardest might be 2 hours of meditation. So that would be the
Mm,
the polar opposite end. But like a middle ground would be, I'm going to put my phone in another room and I'm going to put a movie on. And that would actually be much, much better for your dopamine than scrolling the phone because it's less
mm,
stimulating. So it's like you
mhm.
can kind of find the path. Like I don't always choose to do like the monk life, but even the simple act of tonight, I'm going to put my phone in another room and I'm just going to let myself be a little bit bored as I get into this movie, which we're really struggling to do now. Like even that is like a hard activity, watching a movie, which is so
Mm.
wild.
Yeah, I've been watching old films with the kids recently.
Oh, cool.
Films from like, you know, films from like National Lampoon's summer vacation type films, you know,
Okay.
like 30-year-old films that and you watch them and they're so slow. They feel so slow now and so like
Yeah,
there's no real very few dopamine hits as you go. It's just
for
like very
sure.
slowly building up some big crescendo at the end, and then the end is always epic. But it's just
Mm.
such a slow build up, and we look at the kids and we're like, oh my God, they're going to be getting bored of this. They're going to be like, Dad, can we put on some new kind of, you know, cartoon or whatever they're watching? But they just seem to, I think because they're young enough that they don't actually, they've not been hit by the whole dopamine, social media.
Yes,
They don't
they
have
don't have the
phones or anything. They
comparison
don't have
yet.
all that. Yeah. So they're just watching these films as if it's normal. And we're like, oh my God, this used to be normal. This should be normal still. Like what's happened to us that we don't think it's
Bro,
normal?
that's so good for their development and their brains. And the more you can keep them in a world where that is exciting, the
Mm,
better their dopamine pathway is going to be. And then the more
definitely.
motivation they'll have. And it's also possible, especially as an adult, to kind of regain the capacity to watch a lower stimulation show. Like I remember
Definitely.
trying to watch older movies. Like we watched the movie Good Will Hunting the other day. I'd never seen that film, Matt
Mm,
Damon and
yeah.
Ben Affleck. And it's so good, but just slower. And then we're kind of
Yeah.
sitting there and we're chilling, and you're like, you are a bit bored, but boredom is like the key recipe of creating healthy dopamine in the modern world. And you could have extreme boredom like meditation, but or just like light level boredom, like watching a movie that's not as exciting as, or not even necessarily exciting, just as stimulating as
Yeah.
movies are today. And these tiny tweaks add up to have massive impacts on this chemical.
So go and talk to me about on that same note, like the running. So you said earlier that, you know, if I go for a run for an hour, I I listen to probably about an hour or two, probably more like 2 hours of podcasts every single day and learning
Mm.
about business stuff. So it's kind of, you know, it's where all of I have no background in marketing or business or anything, you know, and I've learned everything from podcasts. So I've got into this routine of everything I do, whether it's a morning workout, whether it's a run, whether it's a bit of ability work in the mornings. I have a podcast on in my ear, but I'm starting to feel like that continual voice in my ear is probably doing me some harm, and I should probably tone it back a little bit. So
Yeah, interesting. The first point there is a deep wisdom within us that's trying to guide us all the time. And that might, like, who knows what that thing is? Maybe it's our soul, maybe it's just like nature inside us. Who knows what it is? But one of the most crucial steps we teach is the capacity to actually hear it and like allow yourself to receive the guidance. So I'm now going to attempt to convince you to not do it, but it's important to recognize your system already told you anyway. So that's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's a
definitely.
good thing to know.
Yeah,
There's an interesting part of this because learning information via podcasts is great. Like I've
yeah,
watched
yeah.
hours and hours, hundreds of hours of podcasts, and it's really useful to learn that information. But if I ask you, for example, what do you feel the experience would be like if tomorrow you went for the run for an hour? Is it an hour you run for, or
Yeah,
longer,
an
or
hour.
shorter? Yeah, an
Every
hour.
other day I run for an hour at the minute. Yeah.
If I told you like today you're going to go for that run, what do you think the experience is going to be like with no phone?
I mean, I feel like I'll either be bored, or I feel like I'll either end up obsessing over one particular thing, the whole time, and it won't be something that's massively productive. So I'll have an unproductive hour maybe.
Yeah, okay, an unproductive hour. So either boredom or an unproductive hour. So
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest the ridiculous idea that it's going to be the most productive hour of your whole month. Let's say I think
Right.
it'll be the most productive hour, and there's a reason for that. We have these two networks, these two brain networks that are really cool. You have one called your executive network and one called your default mode network. Your executive network is what activates whenever you're engaged in something. So anytime your
Mm.
attention is on anything, your executive network activates. So right now, both of our executive networks are activating. If you're scrolling your phone, listening to a podcast, working on your computer, anything that's engaging your attention. And then your default network is what your brain defaults to if it's not engaged in something. So if it's fully
Mm.
daydreaming, for example, if you think back to being a kid on a car journey when we didn't have obviously like all the phones and stuff like that, you'd stare out the window, your brain would move to what we call default network, where it's just like daydreaming, imagination, state of boredom. What's super cool is if you put people in a research study where you intentionally prescribe default mode network time. So for example, a group of 30 people might be set an activity where twice a week for 60 minutes, they have to walk in nature without a phone and they just have to see what happens. They're not given any guidance as to what they have to do in the quiet other than walk without the phone in the nature. You begin to see this fascinating thing where boredom creates a state called self-projection, where the brain naturally begins to strategize how to improve its future. And what that basically means is the brain, if you put it in the quiet for long enough, is evolutionarily programmed to start asking itself questions as to how can I make my future experience better. And in the first 15 minutes of the walk, the brain goes, I'm bored and I'm going to think about all my problems and this is annoying and I'm stressing out about that. After 15 minutes, you cross what we call the boredom barrier at our lab, where the brain begins to
Okay.
think, oh, I'm not going to get any stimulation. So I'm just going to have to start settling in to this experience that I'm in now. And then without even trying, the brain is programmed to ask itself more meaningful questions about life. So it might ask itself questions about a relationship that you're wanting to improve, or a part of your work, or a particular project you're wanting to nail. It could be anything, your health, your food, why you're drinking so much alcohol, why you spend your whole life scrolling your phone, anything. But the brain is programmed to ask itself the questions that it believes is most useful to creating a better future for yourself. So all I'd love you to do is go for the run with absolutely no intention to even ask yourself important questions. But what I
Yep.
would almost bet on and guarantee is that you'll come back with some kind of idea about how to improve some kind of aspect of your life. And that layered upon layers week after week begins to genuinely create the actions that make your future better.
And it has to be over 15 minutes is the key then. So,
Yeah, it's just
like
the
half
first
an
15
hour.
minutes can be a bit of a wrestle with your mind.
Yeah.
It can just be a bit, especially if you're very addicted to stimulation, like most of us are. Like it can be fast because we have these different brain waves. We've got things like beta brain waves, which are very fast, stimulated brain wave. Then we have something called alpha, which is like this lovely, calm, connected, creative place. But we spend all day now in beta and we very rarely actually access alpha. Like that's why even if you tell people, for example, to run a bath and go and lie in a bath, even that is just too boring that you need like Netflix on or music or a phone in your hand in the bath because we can't deal with the transition feeling between beta and alpha. It feels too like anxiety inducing. So that's what those first 15 minutes sometimes can be, just like a little bit quick. And then the brain goes, oh, I'm actually slowing down. Like there's nothing to stimulate me. So it starts to leave beta and then it enters alpha. And in alpha is where all those magical thoughts can come.
Interesting. Yeah, I I feel like there's so many things that I'm doing wrong. I feel like there's so many things that we could all be doing, like you just
Yeah.
said, having a bath without your phone in your hand. Not that even most people. I mean, I don't give myself time to have a bath. Maybe once a month, my wife will get out of the bath and she'll shout at me and go, "Come on, there's a hot bath. Get in it. It'll do you some good." And I'll drag myself up there and then sit in the bath with my phone in my hand anyway, because I'm, you know. Okay.
I know it is tricky, that feeling like, oh, we're doing so much stuff wrong. And it's not really that we're doing stuff wrong. It's like this is a really confusing landscape for the human being because, as I say, dopamine has been our number one driver for hundreds of thousands of years. And now there is so much dopamine everywhere that we just can't control our actions as well. Like, it's really kind of out of our control. But there are small tweaks you can begin to make to move you back to a more natural way of living, a less stimulated way of living. And for me, I didn't just decide like, oh yeah, I'll just start going on quiet walks and I'll just chill in the bath without my phone. Like, I found this really fucking hard, like really, really hard to do this. And as I said at the beginning, like, I don't want like an annoying, fast-paced, stressed experience in my brain my whole life. And it's so easy to just live there all the time with like lots of mood fluctuation and getting irritated at people and annoyed at your kids, annoyed at your partner, like stuck in this like dysfunctional psychological state because we are not living naturally. And because I so badly want to escape that state, I'm willing to do these more annoying things like walk without the phone and sit in the bath and feel really bored. And because I know they collectively add up to a nice calm state in my brain. It's so nice if life feels calm, but it's just harder to access now.
Yeah. What about the types of things that you're thinking about on these walks? So I feel like the first 3 or 4 years of launching the business was just so difficult, so stressful, so all encompassing that I used to always say, I've lost control of my mind. But I've lost my mind. It's owned by the business now. Every thought that passed through my brain was about the business.
Yeah.
Now if I'm trying to start regaining some kind of balance, should we all be trying to go, right, okay, well, let's, if we have that 1 hour run or that half an hour walk in nature or whatever, and our brain starts going towards things about your business or your work, should you try and steer it away from that, or is it fine? Do you just let your mind meander wherever it wants to go?
Yeah, I would say the goal is to do it kind of consistently enough. A bit like cleaning your house. Like,
Um,
it's so much better to every single day just be like, make sure the kitchen is clean, putting the few plates away, than like letting it build up for a week and then having a nightmare cleaning your house. And a very similar thing occurs with the brain. Like, if you only do this very infrequently, when you go out there, it is just going to be kind of carnage. Whereas if you, on a frequent basis, have small amounts of time in the quiet, you're constantly kind of clearing it out. So there's that element in terms of the more consistent you do it, the less stressful it will be in there. In terms of directing the thoughts, as I shared before, the very simple programming the brain has is, how do I make my future better? For some people, they
mm,
might be in a state where thinking about the business is the required thought process to make their future better. They might need more financial stability for their family, for example. And therefore, that is an important thought to continue to have. But if it feels like, oh yeah, this from a business perspective, I'm actually doing quite well, and maybe I should be out here and I should actually learn to celebrate some of the achievements I've been in business rather than constantly thinking I'm not enough and I have to make this business better. Like, that's also a good thought process to have. So I would say, for a while, let your thoughts meander, so at least thoughts can be had, because for a lot of us, we just haven't even had any for a while. And then gradually I would start directing it. And one of the best things you could do is learn to intentionally direct it towards the positive. Because what I found
mm,
is, when I first started going out into the quiet, it was very negative in my mind. It was like, why are you addicted to smoking? Why did you drink so much? And it was just a lot of negative. And that both had its purpose, because I needed to question some of those things. Like, I wouldn't have like a magical life that I have now if I still drank like 20 pints a week. Like, obviously I wouldn't have done any of the work to get me here, because I'd just be hungover all the time. So like, I needed to ask myself those questions to create change. But after a while, I noticed that like my brain, because you get more and more familiar with like the patterns of your brain. The same thing happens with meditation. Like, people get more familiar with how their brain is actually like steering them in all kinds of weird ways. And gradually I started to think, wow, I'm just quite negative in my mind in general, quite overly critical and just a bit of negative self-talk. So I'm going to try and make this a more positive experience. And that would be, and sometimes I'd even talk out loud like a crazy person in the forest, but I would think like, what is it that is going to plan in my life? And can I start listing things out more frequently so my brain can learn a new type of communication? So if anything was going to plan in relationships or with my home or with my work or with my health, I'd start like really proactively talking to myself about those things to almost train a new communication pathway that could see the positive. Just like I think it'd be magical if the news began to tell us how much magic is happening in the world, because the world's actually in an amazing place in many ways. But it feels right now, if you're on the internet, like we're falling to pieces as a species. But there's actually not the truth. It's just the media we're consuming. And if you're always like, that's global scale. If you brew it down to like micro scale in your own brain, we also need to train that skill in our own mind in the quiet.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So I think this is probably a good time to move on to the next brain chemical. So the next neurotransmitter. So oxytocin. So what is oxytocin? I guess I've heard of it. You know, anyone who's a parent who's done the NCT course has heard of oxytocin, because I feel like it's got something to do with pregnancy or labor at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is oxytocin and why do we have it?
Yeah. You can think of this chemical as the kind of biochemical formula for love. And love is a magical experience. It might be the most magical experience that humans can have, like falling in love with someone, or just like being with your friends that you haven't seen for a while, laughing with them, or like raising your kids, like real love for an experience, or even love for things themselves. Like someone might sit and watch a sunrise and there just is like this feeling of awe and like, wow, I just love looking at that sunrise. Like that is a really strong, powerful emotion. And that's what oxytocin is here to help us experience. And what's interesting now is much of the time we're sacrificing experiences we'd probably describe as things we love to do things that we'd probably describe that we don't love because of dopamine addiction. And what I mean by that is, if I ask people, do you love Instagram? Like most people probably, oh, I don't know if I love Instagram, but like I like going on Instagram, it entertains me, stimulates me and so on. But I don't know if it's like a deep love, like a love for your child, but it's like, it's there, it's okay. But your love for your child might be something you do describe as something you love. So yeah, I love my child. And yet we might find ourselves like for hours in the evenings ignoring our kids in the pursuit of scrolling the phone, choosing something we don't love over something we love. And that's how distracting dopamine has become. And the interesting thing about oxytocin is the most calming chemical. It's the thing that makes your nervous system finally like soften and chill out. And you know that feeling of just like constantly feeling heightened and stressed? Like that's just basically life these days. Like it feels like your nervous system is like constantly tight. It's like there's always a problem. There's always And oxytocin is the opposite. It's like, oh, maybe like life's okay, and like life's actually pretty good. And I've got a home, and my family's all right, and I got food, and like that's like what oxytocin would feel like. And we often don't spend much time there anymore. And we can intentionally then do oxytocin stuff, and then it's going to make us feel like a nice calmness and a nice love for people and things.
Okay. Okay. So go on. One immediate thought I just had then was it's quite funny having this podcast. Like I always feel really stressed going up to a podcast, and then when I'm on the podcast, I feel like I definitely have a lot more oxytocin in a podcast, and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh, I'm actually really enjoying this conversation," and this is really way nicer than the stress that's kind of building up to it. Because you know, I'm a introverted person, so I'm not naturally it doesn't come natural to me, but then I always really enjoy the conversation and really engage with it. And maybe also the fact that there's no emails and I've got no phone in my hand. I can't sit on a podcast with you on my phone as well. So you're kind of forced to engage with someone. Whereas when I go out with friends, you know, you feel like you're out for dinner and then you've got your phone in your pocket and then you'll go to the toilet and pull out your phone, or there'll be a pause in the conversation where they might speak to somebody else and you'll kind of just check your phone and stuff. So,
an interesting observation, because you and I are both basically forced right now into a dopamine detox. Like we can't go on our phones. It'd just be super rude. If I just went on Instagram on my computer, it'd just be like, what are you doing? So we're forced into this almost dopamine detox. Whereas, when you're on your computer and you're trying to do a task, but then you're constantly chasing dopamine, you keep clicking on your emails, keep going on LinkedIn or X or YouTube, like it's a constant more dopamine, more dopamine. It's not enough. It's not enough.
Mm,
And you're right. You may feel like calmer now you're actually in the conversation than pre the conversation. And one key point is that pre the conversation, you're stuck in dopamine, just like in task and doing stuff and stimulation. And now it's like, oh, I'm talking to someone, I'm listening, I'm asking questions. And we as humans are just a very, very social being. And interestingly, there were 4 types of Homo species. Sorry, not 4, 7 types of Homo species. Sometimes 7s and 4s look the same in my head for some reason, so I glitched them. I don't know if you have that, but for some reason, those 2 numbers, they get me. So there's 7 Homo species, things like the Neanderthals and stuff like that. And we were actually less able physically, we were arguably less intelligent than other species that came before us. But the only thing that we had was the ability to work collectively as a group. We were a really pro-social species. And Homo sapiens, because we were so good at operating as a group, we won the game effectively and became the species that's here. And in dopamine land that we're all living in, we're not getting that opportunity to be as social as our species is designed to be. And I have to make such a conscious effort of this. Like I even had an interesting experience where I've had a baby recently.
Congratulations.
Thanks. She's 5 weeks old. And so I'm like figuring out this whole new dad thing. And
it's so cool.
Yeah, it's mental. Now I'm just thinking about that, getting distracted. But she's been spending a lot of time in the bedroom with my partner, just sort of like lying down, chilling out, stuff like that. And then we always have this no tech in the bedroom rule. But then because we were in there a lot more than usual, I was like, I'll bring my iPad in, like put some music on. And the speed I noticed how the iPad began to take our attention and how Georgia and I, my partner and I, began to communicate less was just like so crazy to watch. And like even with all this like desire to care for this topic, rapidly got pulled into it. And then it took about 8 days before I noticed like, holy shit, like we're completely now stuck in the iPad in the bedroom, like watching YouTube videos and stuff. And we're now completely sacrificing oxytocin, just like lying in bed with no stimulation, talking to each other. And that is so easily done to just like be in a relationship where you don't lie in bed and chat for 20 minutes before you go to sleep, but you just like feel like you need to stimulate yourself. And that's just like this constant sacrifice of oxytocin. And as I shared like at the beginning of oxytocin is the only thing that will fill us up and calm us and satisfy us. Dopamine will never fill us up. It's programmed that way so that we always wanted more as hunter-gatherers, better hunting, better shelter, better fires and so on. Whereas oxytocin actually makes you think like, oh, I'm full now. So when we solve your sleep, which we still need to do in this conversation, one of the elements is you need to create maximum oxytocin so your nervous system feels maximum safety, and in a safe state your body will be happy to rest.
Okay, amazing. Okay, well, before we move on to sleep, so it sounds like I'm just thinking aloud here. So this kind of like locked in conversation with no possibility of my phone's there, but I know that I'm not going to pick it up for the quick dopamine hit. How can we take that habit and then apply it to other parts of our life? And I guess it's things like when you go for dinner with friends, don't take your phone, or if you do, have it on airplane mode and leave it in the car or whatever. Do you have any like little tips or little habits or hacks that people can do tomorrow to try and boost their oxytocin levels?
I would actually I think it's really good to train on the extreme end of this. Like for example, I don't think everyone should be cold plunging and going in freezing cold ice baths all the time. Like I think it could be a bit extreme, but I also think it's an unbelievably useful thing to do to train yourself to do hard things. And then that will then like drip feed into a really good way in which you approach life. It's like swinging you back in another direction. With the phones, if you this week were to do something whereby you're meeting up for a coffee with someone or anything, you're going for a walk with someone, you're going to meet someone at the gym, and you thought, I'm going to tell them the time I'm going to be there and text them the exact time I'm going to be there. I'm going to tell them my phone's not coming with me. I'm going to bring my bank card and I'm just
like how it used to be.
See what happens when I get there. And a really interesting experience will happen where you might get there to the coffee shop and they're not there. And you're like, okay, they're not there. So maybe they're coming in a bit. You won't know. And you'll have to just stand there and look around. And like, we don't even do that anymore. If there's like 1
Uh,
second in a queue, you're like, nope, done, boom, straight in it. And your brain starts to experience like a destimulated life. Like I will never really, like if I meet my sister, for example, at Gale's for a coffee or I'm going to the gym, I always say this is the time, then my phone stays at home. And, or it could like you drive there and you leave it in the car for a bit or something like that. But it's so good to just train your brain to make the person in front of you the priority or the experience of boredom a priority, because that has a double benefit on the dopamine, and retrain the skill of just like being in front of someone and them having your full attention.
okay, interesting. Okay, go on then. Let's go to sleep. Let's go to sleep because I don't want us to run out of time. Where should we start then? So, what's the
So
best place to start sleep?
this is perfect because this is
Yeah.
S in dose as well. So we've done the dopamine,
Okay,
done the
good. Okay, cool.
oxytocin. So we're dopamine detoxing, we're present with the people we love, we're putting the phone away when we're in bed, watching movies, all this kind of stuff, so that we can actually experience more love. And then serotonin is this chemical that regulates your mood and lifts your energy levels. So obviously very important. We want a good mood and we want energy. And it's built through a variety of things, from sunlight to sleep to nature and to the nutrients that go in our body. So it's like this natural chemical that wants us to go lie in a forest on our back, stare up at the stars and eat an apple, basically. That's what our serotonin wants us to do. That might not be the option now. But sleep is kind of the foundational building block of our serotonin, and then lots of good actions can occur from there. So talk to me about your sleep. Like what has changed in your sleep? Was it ever really good? Has it always been shit? Or where are you at?
No, my sleep used to be really good. It used to be my superpower up until about 4 or 5 months ago. I used to
Okay.
sleep really well. I used to get to bed and just fall asleep like that. And I used to always think it was because I was so exhausted by the time I went to bed, because I'd get up at 6 o'clock religiously in the morning and I'd do a good amount of workout. I'd be really mentally stimulated and challenged all day at work. And then I'd go to bed utterly broken and tired and then fall asleep really well. But then in the last kind of 4 or 5 months, it's just gone really bad.
And what's your instinctive feeling as to what changed?
I don't know. I mean, we moved house. So there's
Okay.
a bit of me that's like wondering whether there's something different about this house, whether it's,
Yeah. A
some
ghost in
kind of,
there or something? Or
yeah, ghost keeping me awake. I mean, there's a million things going through my head that it could be, but I mean, it's just, I don't think there's anything obvious that's
okay,
I'm doing differently.
we'll try and find it then. So is there a
Okay.
temperature change in that bedroom?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd say, not a temperature change per
No,
se.
that's good. No,
No,
you can just yes,
no.
no these
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
Has there been any change in caffeine consumption?
No,
Any change in alcohol?
no.
Any change in the amount of light you get in your eyes when you wake up in the morning? How like outdoor sunlight?
I mean, it is winter, it's yes, definitely. Actually, one big change is we moved house, and in the old house, I used to see sunrise and sunset most days from our balcony. We lived in a block of flats, but we were lucky to have this little balcony where I could see
Mm.
sunrise and sunset every day. From our new place, I don't see either. So
Would
that's
you
one change.
stand out there and look at it?
Yeah, I mean, some evenings I'd literally just stand on the balcony and just watch the sunset and get the kids
Oh,
out
bro,
there.
that's gonna be 100% it.
Yeah.
Because your brain got
Hadn't even
programmed with
thought
this
about
like
that.
really useful natural mechanism that was saying it's bedtime soon, it's bedtime soon, and then sunsets because of the red light in them, they like make your melatonin go crazy, which puts you to sleep.
Okay.
Because obviously, we used to live outdoors, so these different forms
Yeah.
of light and the different wavelengths of light would influence our cortisol and our melatonin cycle. So, like white
Yeah.
light in the morning, that kind of white, brighter light gets our cortisol moving, gets you like healthy cortisol and gets your energy going. And then melatonin comes with the opposite, the red light. Okay. How would it be possible for you to be outdoors and see some evening light? Like how could we do, like right now it gets dark at what, 5:30? How would you get
Yeah.
some evening light?
I mean, funnily enough, so I could still see the sunset, but it's like a 15-minute walk from our house to get to the coast, and then I could watch the sunset.
Okay.
So maybe that needs to be a new habit or routine, is to, at the time of sunset each day, I need to get into the habit of walking to somewhere I can see the sunset. I can't see it from our house, but walk to it. And my walk is through nature to get there, which is a double benefit of walking through nature.
And you're going to be off the phone. So it's all going,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
going to
Okay, yeah, and
plan.
yeah, put the phone on airplane. Leave the phone at home. Don't need the phone.
Leave the
Leave
phone.
the phone at
Okay.
home. Okay.
So that would be one habit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that would be a really worthwhile habit as well, because so if it required like, don't book me calls at this exact time, like that could be quite good to consider. And then obviously as the summer comes, you can be later and later, so it'll get easier and easier to do that habit.
Yeah, yeah.
Any change in what you watch in the evenings, what time you eat your dinner?
No real change there. The only change is I've actually started maybe watching more TV in the evening, because the first kind of 4 years of the business, I was glued to my laptop until about 10:30, and then I'd just be so tired, probably from overstimulated, use my brain so much that I'd be so tired, and then I just go to bed and pass out. But now I've like started trying to
Yeah,
rein
like
that in
you
a little bit.
pass out through exhaustion.
Yeah, I've started trying to rein it in a bit and actually spend the last hour just watching TV or something and then go to bed, which I thought would have a beneficial impact on my sleep, but it's not helped.
What time is that hour? Is that 9 till 10, 10 till 11?
Yeah, about 9 till 10. Yeah.
And what did you like watching, series, or do you watch like movies?
Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's with your
Netflix.
partner? Or do you just
Yeah.
go right here and watch that? And then that finishes at 10.
Yeah.
What do you do? Is that you then go and brush your teeth? Is that your next activity?
Go and brush my teeth. Yeah. And then, yeah,
These are niche questions, but this is how
Yeah.
this is how you like. If someone comes to our research lab, we will be able to fix it. So I'm just seeing whether we can. When you brush your teeth, you stand in the bathroom with the light on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really bright.
Yeah, I know. Bathroom lights don't know.
Why are they the worst? Why do bathrooms have the worst
That's
lights?
the one place you needed to be not light. Okay,
and
so
then but worse than that, I try going to the bathroom and leaving the light off in the bathroom and brushing my teeth. But my toothbrush has this crazy light, which as soon as you turn it on, this bright white light shines in your eyes. So then I have to brush my teeth with my eyes closed with the lights off.
But the modern world is a tough place for us, mate.
Isn't it? I know.
Again, that's
you got
from
the
every
vibration
direction.
through your brain.
No, I'm always
There's a bright light in your face. But if you press hard, the bright white light turns red. So I'm like, well, maybe I just need to press really hard on my teeth to get the red light.
Gum damage.
Yeah.
It would be really good to not stand in the bathroom during the brushing. So even if you could just stand in the corridor outside the bathroom, like you leave the light on, so there's some light, so you can see. Yeah. But like 2 minutes in there, maybe 5 minutes if you're washing your face and stuff, that will really kill your melatonin that you've just created from your sunset walk. So that would be one element.
So maybe do that earlier. So would you say do that kind of bedtime stuff, brush your teeth maybe like an hour before bed?
Well,
so
what
then
would
it
be
doesn't
amazing
disturb.
is, because there's a double benefit of that is it stops you snacking as well because you've already brushed your teeth. Because when you're like sitting on the sofa, it's like 9:30, but then you want some chocolate and you're out.
Yeah.
It kind of kills that because you're like, I can't bother to brush my teeth again. So it could be really beneficial to brush your teeth at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that.
Okay.
And then also it means that when you've been chilling watching the film, you just know like boom, straight to bed after this. Like that's quite nice to just know you can just go to bed.
Yeah.
And then if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you like reading, what would you say is the honest number?
I mean, I like reading, but I find like I don't get to the point fast enough, so then get bored quite quickly. But I have started trying to read before bed. That's another change. I've made a lot of changes in the last 3 or 4 months to try and help my sleep. But the book I bought, unfortunately was the wrong book because it's a non-fiction book written by the CMO of Meta, all about marketing. So now I'm reading this book and then it's making me really stressed about all the things that we're not doing that we should be doing in the business. And I'm like, God, it's the wrong book. Why have I got this?
Yeah, that's not the way. So relatable, these things. And reading itself is pretty boring. Like realistic. Like, everyone should go buy my book and be bored whilst they read it. I'm joking, but the comparative experience of reading to the level of stimulation now is a more boring experience. If you're obviously a really avid reader, you'll find it very exciting, and that's the best place if you're there. But reading itself has become more boring than definitely it once was, when books used to be like quick dopamine almost in comparison to life in a more mundane experience. And that boredom of reading will actually be so good for helping settle your brain to go to sleep, because I noticed, for example, when the iPad came back into the bedroom and we'd watch TV and then try and go to sleep. So I got into, we'd watch like a bit of a show or we'd listen to a podcast or something. And then I'd turn it off. I'd be like, no, we've got to go to sleep. Turn it off. And then my brain would be so fast, they'd be like, well, there's no chance I'm going to go to sleep. So then like I would be thinking and it will be quick. And then because I was in that state, I'd be like, oh, I need to do a meditation app or I need to do like something to try and settle my busy brain. But it's because there's been no wind down period. And then suddenly, because you're in that 20 minutes of time where you're trying to get sleep and it feels so uncomfortable, you actually start getting more and more awake because you didn't do a wind down. So then 20 minutes after you start trying to go to sleep, you're more awake than before you got in bed. And the reading is the most like magical thing that would fill that gap and allow your brain to do what we call beta to alpha, this like slowing down of your brain waves. There is a new book by that Dan Brown guy, you know, the guy that wrote Da Vinci Code?
Yeah.
Secrets of Secrets. And it's like his new big book or whatever. And it's really cool. And it's about like human consciousness. And this person creates this new idea about it. And it's like, it would fascinate your brain. Like, I know it would, but it is a fiction book and it's a story. I reckon, do you sleep in the same room as your partner or do you guys sleep in different rooms?
Same room.
Same room. I would put so much money on it that if you order it on Amazon, that book, and for the next 7 days, when you guys get in bed, you read it out loud to her for 10 minutes. Okay. From page 1, and you just she's like, what? Why are we doing that? I'm not a child. You don't need to read to me. You actually see in research studies how unreal this is for relationships and oxytocin being read to and reading to your partner. If you do that for the next 7 days, I bet your sleep will change. I bet you will fall asleep so freaking quickly if you read 10 minutes to her out loud, read slowly. The storyline is good. It'll engage you to enough of a point that you're finding it somewhat fun. Your brain will soften. And if you have the sunset walk as well, I reckon you're fixed.
Okay, amazing. So what I shouldn't be doing is going to bed, and Kirsty is the co-founder at Excel, and we shouldn't be going to bed summarizing and debriefing on the day of work that we've just had and discussing all of the problems that we need to solve the next day. You definitely shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, like that is also a very useful activity, and you're creating ideas for your future and making a successful business, like crucial. But those activity, that would almost be a better activity to do on the sunset walk because you're actually getting the beneficial effect. So it's like 5 o'clock, we'll debrief, or even when you eat your dinner or something. But once you're getting into bed, it should just be like, day's behind us now. I'm going to read this fiction book. It's really good. The act of reading it out loud might just even make you laugh because it's just funny to like be adults and reading out loud. And I'm not joking. That's like a,
okay.
I wasn't a big reader for context. I wasn't like some really avid reader all the time. I love reading. And it's like quite a long book. So it'll last you ages as well. And don't be afraid that it's a long book. It's okay that it's a long book. And it took us maybe 4 months and I read the whole thing out loud, 10 minutes a night. Gradually got through it. It became like such a fun experience because you do get curious. The storyline is solid. Like this guy sells like 50 million books. He knows what he's doing. Yeah. And don't know why I'm giving him this massive advert, but it just worked. It just worked. Like I was such an overstimulated person that always needed like Friends, the TV show at night to fall asleep. For like decades, I was like that from when I was like 15 years old to 25 at least. And that's what fixed it. It's like intelligent management of light in the evenings and then reading in bed out loud. It like seems so basic, but it works.
You know what one of the most fun parts about parenting that you're about to come up to is reading bedtime stories to the kids. And it's just, you get on so many levels. It's so good. Like I really enjoyed it so much. I haven't done it in a few years now. But yeah, it's wicked. I mean, they're 8 and 11, so they're a bit old for bedtime stories. Maybe not, don't know. But yeah, okay, cool. Maybe I should have a separate book that I read to them in the evenings.
Yeah, bro, a book for them as well, and that's just got like a whole nother host of bazillion benefits for their brains and your connection to them, and there's just like so much stuff going on over there as well. But so much of what we're doing with Dose is helping people realize that the most basic stuff is actually the best stuff for humans, and reading to them for a little bit will begin to help your system wind down, and your to fall asleep, your nervous system has to believe you're safe. Like that's the fundamental thing. Because why would your body let yourself go to sleep if a tiger could eat you or something? So if, for example, like a tribe did experience an animal walking past late at night, like growling or whatever, all of their nervous systems would have to stay awake all night because they will die if we don't stay awake. And when you and your partner, for example, very naturally kind of lie in bed and talk about how to strategize, like what problems have happened and what to fix, the brain is experiencing the exact same thing as the tiger being there. It's just like a metaphorical tiger of some kind of business challenge. So then your nervous system goes, right, into alert. Let's keep things highly strung to make sure I don't die tonight. And our nervous system can't see the differences. And then the act of just like sitting and kind of reading and laughing together, that makes your nervous system think, oh, there's no danger out there at all because we're just like having fun. There's like no problem. And then your nervous system settles. And once it settles, it falls asleep. And it's like, it's so important just to see the simplicity in that.
You know what? One area where I think that mechanism has really helped is that in the early days of the business, like when there was a big problem, like an issue with a staff member or something, it's often people related to the biggest issue, you know, the most stressful ones. I'd literally like lie in bed awake all night for days on end until I solved the issue, and then suddenly I'd have the best night's sleep ever. So I think that's taught me, which is probably down to that mechanism, to whenever there is some kind of big issue going on, solve it immediately. Otherwise, you face nights and nights of terrible sleep stewing over it. So I think that mechanism was probably an evolutionary advantage and helped us protect the tribe and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think as a business owner, if you can tap into that mechanism and understand it, then it can help you just make sure you do the difficult tasks, the hard things first, and just don't let a day finish with some kind of horrendously difficult task looming over you. So
yeah, you got to solve it as quickly as you can. Like anything annoying, solve it as quickly as you can. Even the other day, and this wasn't even a big stress, but it was just an example of something that would annoy me and niggle at me. I was doing one of these big virtual live dose experiences to a school, and they had paid for it to be filmed so they could have it and utilize it in the class and stuff like that. 40 minutes into the event, I realized I'm not recording, and I'm like, oh, it's so annoying. Like and I get off the call, and it's like, I could just be annoyed about that for a few days until I find a solution. But instead, I got off the call. I literally went straight back into Zoom, hit record, and just fired the whole speech again. Just so that it was like, I just went and just did the whole thing again. And then I had a recorded version of it, and then it was done. And it's like, I could have let that linger. And it's the sort of thing that would niggle me at night. Like, oh, I should have sorted out that event. Like, what should I do about that problem? But it's like, if I can just fix the problem as fast as possible, your brain can settle. The other thing there is, you also want to be conscious of your capacity to see problems then late at night. Because if you were to check like Slack at 9:45 and there's a problem, then you're effed, because you're not going to be able to solve it unless you're actually going to go sit on your computer all night. Your team are probably going to sleep, so they can't do anything about it. And then you've screwed your sleep for no benefit. It'd be so much better to see the problem at 8:30 a.m. the next day when you can actually action it with people. So you do want to be careful of how much you expose yourself to potential problems late at night, because you can't do anything about them, but they will screw your sleep.
Interesting. Yeah, just about 20 minutes before starting this podcast, I checked my emails and I saw one particular email, and I could tell from the subject line it was going to be a problem. And I was like, actually, I'm not going to open that email now because I've got 20 minutes before a podcast. I'm not going to solve it in the 20 minutes before the podcast. And, you know, it'll probably spin me out before the podcast and kind of throw the podcast. I was like, okay, I'll open that. So I guess we need to, approach our evenings and emails and things in the same way.
Yeah, and I think it's so beneficial and it's so basic, but just to have one of these app blockers on your phone. Like, you know, you can get an external app that blocks anything you find addictive. And it's not like the screen time limits with Apple where you just click remind me in 15 minutes. You can actually get it blocked. So it just won't open until the next day. And I'll just have like my Gmail is blocked, my Instagram's blocked, LinkedIn blocked. I've even got addicted to YouTube Studio now because we've got a YouTube channel, and it's like I'm checking the subscribers. So I've had to block that. And if it's all blocked, you just go on the phone, you can like maybe check whatever your WhatsApp if you need to, but you don't get pulled into all the other stuff. Whereas if it's open, you're in, and it's just so hard to manage.
What app's that?
I use one called Roots, like like the roots of a tree, and it's a free app, super easy. You just download it, you block all the apps, and mine lets me go on my apps 3 times a day for 5 minutes. So it means my total Instagram time a day is 15 minutes, which is like nothing. Considering it's my job, it's like
that's so good.
It's low. And And it also means there's so little time that even if I need to post or something, like I'll just go in 5 minutes back out. It just kicks me back out, and then I can't scroll and stuff like that. And for me,
Mm.
the less and less time I spend in there, the happier I am. So it's just
Yeah, yeah.
so useful. Whereas I remember there was a time like 6 months ago or something where the app had an issue, and it just like in the afternoon it bugged out or something. It's a very good app though. I don't mean to like insult their app. High quality, perfect app. but it bugged out, and then I noticed like my Instagram, because the app kind of goes all colorless, and I noticed it was open, and I must have literally clicked the Instagram out like 20 times that afternoon, because like I just
Yeah.
like was suddenly like, oh, I can go on it now, and then like I would literally go out to make a coffee, bang, go to the toilet, bang. But so it's like you got to block those apps. They got to be blocked.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to plug, or where can people find you? Anything you want to shout out? This is your moment.
Yeah, the final thing I would say is, just so people can complete the loop in their head, endorphins just want physically challenging experiences to be occurring, and they're the primary de-stressor of our system. So anything you find challenging, from sitting in a sauna for 15 minutes to going to a yoga class to running up a hill, like the endorphins is a very simple chemical that just wants physical difficulty, basically. And they're very good at making you less pissed off and less angry at life. That's basically what their core function is. So if you feel really annoyed, don't try and kind of like red wine and scroll it away. You got to physically get it out of you. That's the basic premise on endorphins. And
I
in
love the
terms
fact.
of,
I love the fact you wanted to close the loop and explain endorphins
I
to
couldn't
people
leave that
before
loop
before promoting your own businesses. That's good sign. Good person. Okay.
yeah, the best thing I'd recommend is, I have a book called The Dose Effect,
Yep.
and it's on all the bookshops, and then it's on Spotify and all that sort of stuff. And it basically teaches you these 4 chemicals in a very, hopefully, engaging way about this hunter-gatherer evolutionary journey. And then it gives you daily challenges you're completing, so that you immediately begin to optimize them. We've kind of, at Dose Lab, my research lab, gamified brain chemistry into 20 core behaviors. Then we take people on these quests to embed them into their life. So the Dose Effect could be cool. And then I would say follow me on Instagram, but it's kind of poisoning our brain, so you can just buy the book.
But we need to get you to 1 million followers. Oh, you're so close.
Yeah, I'm close actually. I
Go,
looked
give
this
him a follow.
morning. I was nearly there. So I'm TJ Power on
Yeah.
Instagram, and on there I'll
Okay.
tell you to use it less.
And you're writing a new book. What's your new book about?
I unfortunately am not allowed to share the premise of the new
Okay.
book, but it is going to heal some people in the world, I hope.
How close is it?
I've written about 40,000 words, but this one doesn't come out for another little while. So
Okay,
it's,
cool. Wicked.
it's on its way, but
Okay.
in my opinion, stimulation addiction is kind of the root cause of society's pain in our mind now. I just believe it's right at the core of both young people and adult pain. And this book is going to solve it.
Amazing. I can't wait for it. Cool. Thank you again so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for helping me solve so many of my own issues. And
You're going to have to email me or text me whether it fixes your sleep.
yeah,
I'm very
okay,
curious.
wicked.
You got to
Okay.
read the book out loud every night.
Okay, amazing. And one for the kids. Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.